When a school dismissed my daughter's injury by saying, "Boys will be boys," after a bully hurt her, I decided to teach them what it truly means when protective fathers step in and refuse to let their children be ignored, silenced, or harmed without consequences. I was in my home office when I overheard my daughter harming herself in her bedroom. Upon entering, I found her surrounded by clumps of her blonde hair, tears streaming down her face. I knelt and gently removed the scissors from her grasp. She met my gaze with those large blue eyes and whispered, "Perhaps now he will leave me in peace." Amelia offered little explanation that evening. She simply repeated that it no longer mattered and retired to bed with her hair uneven and jagged. I spent the subsequent 3 days attempting to extract information from her. She barely touched her breakfast and merely picked at her dinners. When I contacted her teacher, Miss Peterson, she actually chuckled at my apprehension. "Oh, you mean Archie Morrison? He has the most significant infatuation with Amelia. It's quite charming how he trails her like a lost puppy." Boys of that age simply lack the ability to articulate their emotions appropriately. Something about her phrasing, "trails her," churned my stomach. I was unsure how to approach Amelia about it. Fortunately, I did not have to because as soon as she arrived home, she completely collapsed. It turned out Archie had been calling her Goldilocks speech every single day, prompting the entire class to chant it during recess. He had been cornering her in deserted hallways and demanding embraces. Just last week, he seized her face and compelled her to look at him, declaring, "When I speak to you, you look at me. I am only hurting you because that is what people do when they are in love." I was incensed. The school continued to dismiss it as youthful affection. So I instructed Amelia to assert herself, to shout loudly the next time he touched her, so teachers would be compelled to intervene. Sometimes I ponder how differently things might have unfolded if I had just remained silent, because the following day, Amelia returned home with contusions on her wrists and her shirt torn at the collar. You see, she had yelled at Archie to leave her alone in front of everyone. The teacher had made her apologize to him for offending his sensibilities and causing a commotion. And as if that were not enough, he cornered her after school with 3 of his companions to teach her a lesson. "My father says girls play hard to get, but they truly desire it. You humiliated me, so now we are even. Tomorrow I will show you what true affection feels like," he stated. Amelia slumped against me, and I stroked her back as I did when she was small, murmuring that she was safe now, while my hands trembled with fury. That night, I drove directly to Archie's residence. His father answered the door in a suit that likely exceeded my monthly earnings. "Your son has been tormenting my daughter." "Oh, that is not what I was informed," he interjected, a smirk plastered on his countenance. "Archie told me your daughter has been sending mixed signals, encouraging him, then publicly rejecting him." I should have struck him senseless, but I refrained because when I glanced behind him, I noticed his wife standing there with a bruise on her cheek. Mark immediately grasped her waist and drew her near. Linda comprehends how relationships function. 20 years of marriage because she understands that when we resort to violence, it is because I cherish her too deeply to release her. That was when I realized Archie was merely emulating his father's behavior, and soon I would ensure they both paid. I departed their home, my hands still quivering. The drive back seemed interminable because I repeatedly pulled over to compose myself. When I returned, Amelia was already asleep. Her choppy hair fanned across the pillow like fractured wings. The next morning, I retrieved my phone and began photographing her bruised wrists. She flinched when I gently touched them to capture better angles. I documented every mark, every torn piece of clothing. Then I searched through her backpack while she ate breakfast and discovered crumpled notes shoved deep in the front pocket. My stomach plummeted as I read them. "You are mine," written repeatedly in messy handwriting. "Stop ignoring me or else." One contained a crude drawing of a girl with X's over her eyes. I arranged everything on the kitchen table and took more pictures. Amelia observed me silently, pushing cereal around her bowl. When I inquired about text messages, she shook her head but avoided my gaze. Something told me there was more she was not yet disclosing. That afternoon the principal called not about Archie but about Amelia. "Mr. Thompson, I am concerned about your daughter's conduct. She has been very disruptive lately, seeking negative attention. Have you considered counseling? Sometimes children act out when they are struggling at home." I clutched the phone so tightly my knuckles whitened. "My daughter has contusions on her wrists from being assaulted yesterday. Did Miss Peterson report that?" Miss Peterson mentioned Amelia created quite a scene. "Yes, she embarrassed young Archie in front of his peers. We cannot have students fostering hostile environments for others." The call concluded with him suggesting Amelia might benefit from a fresh start in a different class, away from her friends, away from any witnesses. 2 days later it occurred. Amelia came home and proceeded directly to her room without a word. When I knocked, she was seated at her desk staring blankly. "They relocated me," she said quietly, "to Mrs. Hoffman's class. None of my friends are there, but Archie is still in Miss Peterson's class with everyone else." I sat on her bed, attempting to control my fury. Did they explain why? The principal said it was for my own good, that I needed space from the situation. She turned to face me, her eyes hollow. "Dad, he prevails. He always prevails." The subsequent few days were a nightmare. Amelia began eating lunch alone because Archie had enlisted a group of boys to follow her. They would encircle her table, making kissing sounds and laughing when she attempted to ignore them. The lunch monitors did nothing. When she tried eating in the library instead, the librarian turned her away, asserting Archie had reported she was damaging books. I installed a recording application on Amelia's phone after explaining my necessity for it. She agreed immediately, desperate for any assistance. The first recording we captured sent shivers down my spine. Archie had cornered her by the water fountain. "My father knows people on the school board," he stated. "He said if you do not start being pleasant to me, he will ensure your father loses his teaching position. Do you wish for your father to be unemployed? Then smile when you see me." Armed with this evidence, I scheduled an appointment with the superintendent. I meticulously prepared everything. Photos, recordings, documentation of the school's failure to safeguard my daughter. But when I arrived at his office, his secretary gave me an odd look. "Oh, Mr. Thompson, Dr. Hayes is expecting you." The meeting was a catastrophe. Dr. Hayes sat behind his desk with his hands clasped, barely glancing at my evidence. "Mr. Morrison has already been here," he said calmly. "He is quite concerned about your daughter's mental state. Apparently, she has been fixating on his son, following him around, making false accusations, when he does not reciprocate her feelings. That is a fabrication," I declared, pushing the photos across his desk. "Look at these contusions. Listen to these recordings." He pushed them back without looking. Children can be very imaginative when they desire attention, and recordings can be altered, taken out of context. "Mr. Morrison showed me some troubling emails you have sent to other parents about his family. It appears you are the one engaging in harassment." I had not sent any emails, but arguing seemed futile when he had clearly already taken a side. Peculiar occurrences began after that meeting. Every morning, at least one of my tires was low on air. The first time I attributed it to chance. By the fourth time I knew better. I discovered small nails scattered near my driveway, positioned perfectly to puncture tires. Then came the night Amelia awakened me at 2 a.m. She was standing by my bed trembling. "Dad, he sent me pictures." She extended her phone with shaking hands. The images made my heart cease. Photos of her bedroom window taken from outside. Different angles, different nights. In one, you could discern her shadow moving behind the curtains. I contacted the police immediately. 2 officers appeared an hour later, looking uninterested. They took notes, glanced at the photos, and shrugged. Without proof, it was the Morrison boy. There is not much we can do. Could be anyone. Perhaps install security cameras. Amelia did not sleep the remainder of the night. Neither did I. The next evening, someone knocked on our door around 8 p.m. I peered through the peephole and saw Linda Morrison standing there alone. When I opened the door, the porch light illuminated a fresh black eye. "I need to speak with you," she said quietly, glancing over her shoulder. "About Mark, about what he is instructing Archie." I allowed her entry and prepared tea while she sat at my kitchen table. Her hands trembled as she wrapped them around the mug. "He possesses cameras," she finally stated. "Throughout our house, he has been demonstrating to Archie how to track people's phones, how to follow someone without being detected. He calls it keeping tabs on what is yours." She reached into her purse and retrieved a USB drive. I copied files from his computer, videos from our home security system. "You need to witness what he has been teaching our son." I plugged it into my laptop while Linda gazed at her tea. The first video depicted Mark and Archie in what appeared to be a home office. Mark was demonstrating something on Linda, gripping her arm and drawing her close. "See how she attempts to pull away at first?" He told Archie, "That is natural. Women require control. They will thank you for it later." Linda's face in the video was expressionless, resigned. Archie watched with fascination as his father showed him pressure points, methods to grasp someone that would not leave obvious marks. "Your mother learned years ago that resisting makes it worse. Intelligent women comprehend their place." I copied everything immediately, creating multiple backups. Linda provided me with more specifics about Mark's connections, his standing on the school board, the individuals he had under his influence. "He will ruin you if you are not cautious," she warned. "He has done it before to others who challenged him." After she departed, I spent the night organizing everything into a comprehensive dossier, but I knew I needed to be strategic. Mark Morrison had already tainted the perception of the school administration. The next morning, I attempted to present my evidence to the school board. I had barely begun speaking when Mark rose from his seat at the board table, a smug expression on his face. "Mr. Thompson has been harassing my family for weeks now. His daughter has an unhealthy fixation on my son, and instead of addressing it, he is enabling her delusions. I move that we postpone this discussion until Mr. Thompson seeks appropriate mental health support for his child." The motion passed unanimously. Matters escalated swiftly thereafter. Amelia returned home from art class covered in paint, her favorite sweater ruined. She was trembling as she recounted what transpired. Archie had cornered her while she was working on a project. He had grabbed her hair, attempting to snip off a piece with scissors. "For my collection," he had stated. She had pushed him forcefully, sending him stumbling into the paint supplies. The art teacher had walked in just as Archie collided with the shelves. She had witnessed the mess, heard Archie's cries, and immediately blamed Amelia. "Detention for a week," she had announced, "and you will be cleaning up this mess." During Amelia's first detention, Archie and 5 of his friends surrounded the classroom windows. They pressed their faces against the glass, making vulgar gestures and mouthing threats. The detention monitor sat at his desk, intentionally looking at his phone. That night, I made the decision to withdraw Amelia from school. "We will homeschool," I told her. "Just until we can resolve this." The relief on her face broke my heart. "Thank you," she whispered, embracing me more tightly than she had in years. But Mark Morrison was not finished. 3 days into homeschooling, a social worker appeared at our door. "We received a concerning report," she said, holding up official-looking documents, "about educational neglect and isolation. I need to evaluate Amelia's living situation." As she introduced herself as Sarah Chun, something about her seemed familiar. She conducted her interview professionally, but I observed how her eyes lingered on the evidence files I had left on the coffee table. When she requested to speak to Amelia privately, I hesitated but consented. They conversed for an hour. When they emerged, Sarah's expression had completely transformed. "Mr. Thompson, I believe we need to have a different discussion about the Morrison family. I am Linda Morrison's cousin. I have been witnessing Mark harm her for 15 years. Sarah Chun sat down at our kitchen table, her professional demeanor shifting to something more personal. She retrieved her own phone and displayed photos spanning years. Linda at family gatherings with various injuries poorly concealed by cosmetics. I have documented everything I could, but Linda always shielded him until now. She explained that Linda had contacted her the previous night, desperate and prepared to act. The USB drive was merely the beginning. Sarah had already connected with a family attorney named Catherine Mackenzie, who specialized in cases involving domestic violence and institutional corruption. She has handled situations where abusers utilize their positions to manipulate systems. She knows how to construct cases that endure. The next morning, I met Catherine at her office downtown. She was younger than I had anticipated, with keen eyes that missed nothing as she reviewed our evidence. She spent 3 hours going through everything, asking detailed questions and taking notes. When she finally looked up, her expression was grave but resolute. "Mark Morrison has done this before," she said, pulling out a thick folder. 3 other families filed complaints over the past decade. Each time they were discredited, isolated, and eventually relocated. But none of them possess what you have: Linda's cooperation and Sarah's professional documentation. She outlined our strategy. We required more evidence, particularly of Mark's direct involvement in orchestrating the harassment. She provided me with specific instructions on what to document and how to legally protect ourselves while gathering proof. That afternoon, Amelia showed me something she had been concealing. More photos on her phone, but these were distinct. Screenshots of a group chat where Archie was providing other boys with instructions. "Ensure she cannot eat anywhere. Block the hallways so she is forced to speak to me. My father says if enough people claim she is unstable, everyone will believe it." I forwarded everything to Catherine immediately. She responded within minutes, advising us to back up everything in multiple locations. 2 days later, our doorbell camera captured something unsettling at 3 a.m. A figure matching Archie's physique spray painting words on our fence. The vandalism was repulsive, threats intermingled with crude drawings. But we had him on video, unmistakably clear. When I went outside to document the damage, I discovered something else. Our garden hose had been severed, water inundating the side of our house. The outdoor electrical outlet had been tampered with, though thankfully the breaker had tripped before any fire ignited. I contacted the police again, but this time I mentioned Catherine McKenzie by name. The officers' attitudes shifted immediately. They took the vandalism seriously, documented everything thoroughly, and promised to file a complete report. Catherine called that evening with an update. Linda came to my office today. She brought 20 years of journals documenting Mark's abuse. Names, dates, specific incidents. She also has recordings from their home security system that Mark is unaware she copied. The recordings were damning. Mark instructing Archie on how to intimidate girls. Never leave marks where teachers can see them. If she tells, just say she is envious and seeks attention. Remember, son, fear is more potent than affection. Once they are afraid, they will do anything to make it cease. But the most chilling recording was recent. Mark telling Archie precisely how to escalate with Amelia. Her father is becoming too audacious. Time to show them what happens when people challenge us. Begin with a house. Make them feel insecure everywhere. Catherine filed for emergency restraining orders the next morning. The hearing was scheduled for the following week, but she cautioned us that Mark would escalate once he was served. She was correct. The day after Mark received the papers, 3 school board members appeared at our house. They stood on our porch like a delegation of intimidation led by a man named Robert McKenzie, who introduced himself as board president. Mr. Thompson, we are concerned about your suitability as an educator, he began, reading from what appeared to be prepared notes. Multiple reports suggest you are coaching your daughter to fabricate allegations. That is a serious ethical transgression that could impact your teaching license. I recorded the entire interaction on my phone, visible in my shirt pocket. Are you jeopardizing my employment because I am safeguarding my daughter from assault? Robert's face flushed. No one is threatening anything. We are simply suggesting that this situation could be resolved quietly if you would be reasonable. Mr. Morrison is willing to ensure your continued employment if you withdraw these unfounded accusations. Depart my property, I said calmly, and inform Mark Morrison his intimidation tactics will not succeed. They left, but not before Robert made one final comment. You have no notion of who you are dealing with. Mark Morrison possesses connections you cannot fathom. That night, Linda called from Sarah's house where she was staying. Her voice was strained but resolute. Mark is growing desperate. He has been contacting everyone, attempting to control the narrative, but I discovered something else. He has a notebook where he has documented his control strategies for years. Names of people he has blackmailed, favors he has called in, vulnerabilities he has exploited. She had photographed every page before leaving. The notebook revealed a web of manipulation throughout our small town. School officials, local business owners, even a few police officers who owed Mark favors or feared his influence. Catherine was overjoyed when she saw the photos. This alters everything. It is not just about your family anymore. This is a pattern of corruption and abuse. We spent the subsequent 3 days preparing for the hearing. Catherine coached Amelia on how to testify, keeping things factual and unambiguous. She was courageous, my daughter, even though her hands trembled when she practiced describing what Archie had done. Meanwhile, the harassment persisted but became sloppier. Archie was caught on school security cameras leaving threatening notes in other students' lockers, attempting to incite them against Amelia. The principal, suddenly apprehensive about liability, actually called to apologize for his previous dismissiveness. The morning of the hearing, we arrived to find the courtroom filled to capacity. Word had spread and several other families were present. Parents whose children had been bullied by Archie, women who recognized Linda's narrative as their own. Mark entered with an expensive lawyer, his confidence intact until he saw Linda seated with our legal team. His face cycled through several expressions: surprise, rage, then careful blankness. The judge, Roberta Akathine, was renowned for her no-nonsense approach. She reviewed the evidence methodically, asking incisive questions. When Catherine presented the recordings of Mark teaching Archie intimidation tactics, the courtroom was silent except for the sound of Mark's lawyer frantically scribbling notes. Amelia testified with remarkable composure. She described the escalating harassment, the terror she felt, the way the school had failed to protect her. When Mark's lawyer attempted to suggest she was exaggerating, she simply retrieved her phone and showed the judge the photos Archie had taken of her bedroom window. He sent these at 2:47 a.m., she said quietly, with a message saying, "Sweet dreams, Goldilocks. I have not slept well since." Then came the moment that transformed everything. Archie was called to testify. His father had coached him thoroughly, but teenage arrogance betrayed him. When asked about the harassment, he smirked. "My father says girls need to know their place," he stated proudly. "Amelia was being difficult, so I had to show her who is in charge. That is what men do." The judge's expression hardened. "And who instructed you in this?" "My father. He demonstrated with Mom how to make women listen. He says, once they are scared enough, they will do whatever you desire." Mark lunged from his seat, seizing Archie's arm hard enough to make him cry out, "Silence, you imbecile!" Court officers immediately restrained Mark, but the damage was done. He had just assaulted his son in front of a judge, substantiating everything we had asserted about his violent disposition. Judge Akathine called a recess. When we returned, her ruling was swift and comprehensive. Permanent restraining orders for both Mark and Archie. No direct contact with Amelia or me, or through third parties. Archie was mandated to undergo intensive therapy with regular court monitoring, but she was not finished. "Mr. Morrison, your conduct in my courtroom today, combined with the evidence presented, deeply concerns me. I am referring this case to the district attorney for criminal charges, including witness intimidation, assault, and conspiracy to commit harassment." Mark's lawyer attempted to object, but the judge cut him off. "I am also forwarding all documentation to the school board with my strong recommendation that Mr. Morrison's position be reconsidered immediately." As we exited the courthouse, Linda approached us. She looked drained but somehow lighter. "Thank you," she said simply, "for believing the evidence, for fighting back. You have given me the courage to finally end this." Her divorce lawyer was waiting in the parking lot. With the restraining order and Mark's courtroom assault on record, she was filing for emergency custody and expedited divorce proceedings. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Mark was arrested on multiple charges after the DA reviewed the evidence. His bail was set high due to the documented intimidation tactics. The school board, suddenly apprehensive about liability and public image, voted unanimously to terminate his position. Several other families came forward with their own accounts about Archie's bullying and Mark's protection of his son's behavior. Catherine filed a civil suit on behalf of multiple victims seeking damages and institutional reforms. The school district, facing potential lawsuits and public scrutiny, implemented new anti-bullying policies with genuine efficacy. Teachers received mandatory training on recognizing and addressing harassment. The principal, who had dismissed our concerns, was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Archie was transferred to a therapeutic boarding school specializing in behavioral modification. The court mandated weekly therapy sessions and regular progress reports. His therapist, Dr. Kathy Tubert, later informed us that Archie's worldview had been so distorted by his father's teachings that it would require years to undo the damage. Linda's divorce proceeded quickly. With the criminal charges against Mark and the documented abuse, she received full custody. Mark was permitted only supervised visits, which Archie initially refused to attend. The criminal trial was set for 6 months out, but Mark's attempts to intimidate witnesses from jail only added to the charges against him. Several of his former associates distanced themselves, suddenly recalling instances of his inappropriate behavior they had previously overlooked.